Hey, I just was having some thoughts, and so I thought I would share. I'm thinking about friends today and how it's so important to have friends in this journey called life. To sound quite poetic, I've had a week of just catching up with different friends and touching base with people and seeing other people hurt in their lives and trying to take away some of that pain. And that isn't possible. And yet I see them struggle trying to share the weight of their burdens with others, and they don't want to talk to me because they think that my burdens are way too heavy to begin with. And it's such an important thing for people to share. And the burden that you're carrying yourself, that you pass on to others when you vent, isn't the same weight when they take it from you. And that's almost impossible to remember for yourself. So I know that, and they know that, and they'd love to talk to me about things, but life is just hard, and if you don't share it, it becomes almost futile. I was just talking to a friend of mine that, just like me, she's gone through trial after trial after trial, and it's never ending, and it's always big issues. And she is disappointed by people on every side, and not because she has held them to high expectations or anything like that, merely because people disappoint us all the time, and you'd hope for better. And especially when you're someone who constantly gives, seeing other people not want to have that as the way they live their lives, no matter who they are, is really sad. Um, I wish I could be there for people more, and I can't. Not because I don't want to, it's just I'm here, they're there, and life gives us boundaries that have to be in place. So I remember when his dads were going through something, and all I wanted to do was care for them and care for him and be there for him, and yet that boundary couldn't be there anymore because it wasn't the appropriate time and place, and that really does suck. Um, the world expects us to rely on our families, and family is normally the last people we can rely on, sadly. No, that's not true. For many people, they do have great families, but even when you have a good family, sometimes you can't rely on them, or you don't want to because they've got their own issues. And the reality is, we actually do have to carry each other's burdens, otherwise, it doesn't work. And sometimes other people's burdens are too big for us, and so we isolate ourselves and find out that it's worse than actually helping carrying people's burdens. What a silly maze we weave, really. Life is just so complicated, and the futility of life can overtake us if we're not careful. I hope I can encourage you to rely on those that love you and to share, and make sure that you share in both directions, because that's how it's going to work. Because if you don't share in both directions, both of you will burn out. I've had a pretty hard week, and yet today has really felt like a better day. And I've had to talk to people today that really are struggling. And that's, in the end, it's actually a good thing. God has shown me many things of how to keep going, and that is the only way of doing it. It's just little things in your day. So yesterday I was talking to a lawyer, and right at the end he said, you know, I am a Christian and I prayed for you before this session. And even just the little things like that can make a difference. Knowing that there are people there that genuinely are trying to do the right thing. Because sometimes it does feel like the world is all against us. That there is just one fight after the next and no break. And my guess is if we do go back and start to count the blessings, that there are many of them, but people are scared that if you start counting the blessings, that it takes away the recognition of the hard times, and it doesn't. It gives a flavour to the life and some context. She makes your life more interesting, even for those who are talking to you. I'm really, really fortunate. I've got 4 amazing children, and they're healthy to a certain extent, and they're progressing. And yet I look at things like the fact that at least one of them isn't going to grow up to be 100% independent and autonomous as an adult. And that is okay. It doesn't make me sad about that they don't achieve the potentials of society. It makes me sad that they might miss out on some of the things that are really amazing in life. But that doesn't mean that they won't have other things that replace that. And it's just a different life. Not better, not worse. It has good things in it, bad things in it, and some things we'll regret about each of them, and some more things will be worse. It means that I'm going to worry about them for the rest of their lives because they are so much more vulnerable to the outside world. I've already watched one child who is very vulnerable be led astray and had her happiness tainted. It's not been taken away, but it's definitely been tainted and injured, and that will be ongoing injury. And that's awful to see. I hope I am wrong about how much it will affect her. But I watch things change for each of them, and it's such a blessing. Like, I'm watching my 15-year-old who's about to turn 16, and she's just hit the developmental age of a 12, 13-year-old, and so she's becoming more independent and happy about finding out who she is, and she's excited about things coming up in her life, and that's so wonderful to see. She recognizes her weaknesses and her strengths and is finding an inner joy and a peace that she hasn't had for many years. All of them went through a number of different traumatic experiences, which has taken away their joy, and it's taken a lot to get them back to this stage. I'm looking at the fact that my son might have the chance of being diagnosed as something which is a bit more unknown, which is called pervasive refusal syndrome, where he's regressing and slowly but surely finding the world too scary and refusing to do things that are simple. And that is a factor of his autism, and it's a factor of the complex trauma he got when he was the wrong age to get it, and a lot of other stuff that he's really confused by. And so he won't leave the house, so he won't talk to people, so he won't touch people. He is slowly refusing to eat certain things or at certain times, and will refuse to do most activities now, even inside the house. And it's heartbreaking watching this happy toddler that's turned into a happy-ish little boy who's slowly losing his ability to laugh. And one of the things he was known as when he was a baby was that he was so, so happy. It was what distinguished him from every other child. And we had him in the hospital, and all the nurses, that's all they could ever say was, he's such a happy child. And I'm really hoping that this is a stage rather than part of the journey, in terms of a journey that it continues to go on along that way. But it's just something that, while I can assist and recognise and we can work with the therapists for, it might be something that I won't be able to amend, that is in God's hands, and there's factors in his life that I have no control over. And while I try and influence for the right reasons, that doesn't end up happening, and it is beyond where I can do anything about it. I must be getting older because I've learned to accept that as well. Anyway, sometimes it's good to vent and explain something and understand, so that in due time we can go back and go, hey, we didn't have control of this, we did have control of that. We knew this was going to happen. Yesterday, talking to the lawyer and a few other people, certain parts of conversation happened that it really, really made me sad, for the children, for everybody. And the lawyer looked at me and paused and said, you knew this was going to happen. You said this would happen and then this would happen. And it's about control and this and that. And I just had to sit back and go, yeah. And I said to him, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that we saw it coming, we knew it would happen, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Because otherwise we just keep trying, and sometimes you just have to go, what other people do we can't control, no matter how much it badly affects you. Thank God we worship a God that's merciful and just. And though while we walk through this life, there's going to be 1,000 things that go wrong, God is in control. And he knows what he's doing. And there is a final time when things will get put back into the rightful manner of working. We have to hope for justice. And that's something that I'm learning that I didn't always want. I wanted everyone to be happy and everyone to have good, but I didn't always want people to be punished and that sort of stuff. And that isn't justice. People are going to have the consequences of their decisions. and I have to let them, even when I love them. Anyway, I'm going to end that at this point. I hope you have a great day. God bless. Love those around you, and ta-ra. I don't know where. Oh, there's the end stream button. Good, aren't I? I shouldn't have been changing the programs I was using. Ta-ra.